sort of thing. Like
Welcome
Maroon.
to Origins. I'm a wizard.
I'm Brodor, and this is Why We Game. You're listening to the Origins Special Part 1. Just like my Gen Con special, I go through a series of vignettes, if you will, or mini interviews. They're in no particular order, where I get to geek out about how much I enjoy the show, and I went there if you couldn't, or you just want to hear me blather. Let's go ahead and get things started with Andrew, who is the Vice President of the Game Manufacturers Association and also the COO of Chip Theory Games. And we mostly talk about Gamma because he's been talking about Chip Theory Games all weekend. And honestly, as a hobby guy who really has a passion for the retail side of things and the business side of the industry, I was mostly interested in what Andrew had to say about Gamma. Now I have, if you'll excuse the expression, a double get or a double whammy. I'm here with Andrew Chesney, who is the COO of Chip Theory Games and the Vice President of the Game Manufacturers Association, which, if you're not in the know, Gamma owns Origins Game Fair that we are at today. So I have a multitude of questions. In his lovely English accent, Andrew has been breaking down a lot of chip theory stuff, so I'm going to try not to dominate too much of his time, but I may be a little all over the map here. So how did you get into gaming?
That is a great question. I mean, this started way back in the 80s. Actually, it's a family thing. Everybody loved gaming at home. I bought some Games Workshop products, and it was the miniatures, the hobby, the collecting that really caught me. I played those through the 90s, finished school. I actually joined Games Workshop in 1997, so this will be my 25th year in the industry.
So you joined GW when you were 5?
Well, yeah, no. I was late teens, but yes, Thank you for the compliment. I love that. You can keep going. But it's something that's always been passionate to me. When I was I found that there was a real need to support the artists, to support the games designers with competent operational means. I used to love setting up for events. We used to spend 16 hours a day in the Games Workshop hall setting up for a 500-person Warhammer event, and that really drove me to want to do more. They paid us in beer and Skittles. I'll be honest. It's there wasn't a great long-term career in terms of, I could buy a house and a Ferrari and retire at 35, but it really did give you something back as a community building option. So through Games Workshop, I worked with Warlord Games, who is one of the greatest historical tabletop miniatures manufacturers in the world. Loved what they did there, and then found Chip Theory Games about 5 years ago when I moved to the US. I married a woman from DC, came to the US. Chip Theory Games needed somebody to support what they were doing, which was amazing game design, really heavy strategy games with beautiful components, beautiful gameplay, beautiful stories, but they were designers and they wanted to have somebody running the day-to-day business. So it's hey, I've been doing this for 20 years now for people, supporting them. And that's kind of where I got involved at Gamma at the same time.
Okay, that was actually the next course of action, or the next course of questioning, I should say more appropriately. In addition to being involved in the game industry as a professional, the Game Manufacturers Association has a completely different mission in the hobby. So for those who aren't familiar, what exactly is the mission of the Game Manufacturers Association?
So the vision is basically the ability to support the entire industry, and that is through inclusion and making sure that there is a table and a game space for everybody that wants to find one. It is very hard sometimes to know where it is that your community lies, and with us, with the gaming community, and not just board games, but card games and role-play games and miniatures games, and any game that anybody wants to be considered part of it should be included in it. And there's a lot of just craft corner things, and people make chainmail and whatever. Where is it that they get together? Now, Gamma 35 years ago was actually set up to support Origins Games Fair. It was a convention run by the publishers so they could have somewhere to sell their goods. So they created essentially what was a trade association in name to support their convention and allow them to keep putting it on year after year without being caught by taxes or which company runs it or whatever.
If you were old like me, you would have heard all the stories about where the bodies are buried, how retailers were dude, what the fuck? Why are we not part of this?
Right.
Pardon my French, but I cuss a lot.
being British, I have to hold my tongue because otherwise we just constantly cuss. Yeah.
Because you guys are the masters of the C word. Like, I drop a C bomb and people, they gasp like they're going to have a heart attack. You guys do it and it's like saying, I don't know, bullocks or bloody.
Right, exactly. It's like you can order food using that. It's like, but over here, people look at you very strangely.
Yeah.
But no, the direction of GAMA nowadays is very much a supportive trade association. In fact, only about 2 months ago did we completely rewrite the bylaws to stop it from being just a publishers trade association, and now there are separate tiers for retailers and creatives and manufacturers and publishers.
And media. I have been a dues-paying member of GAMA for 2 years now, since quitting my job to be media.
Yep.
Now, I am not going to ask you to comment at all. I'm going to say a couple of things. Now, we are in person, which is my preferred way because I can read people. I'm almost 47 years old.
Right.
I've been coming to conventions for many, many years. I prefer Origins to Gen Con for a number of reasons.
Yep.
I like the smaller space.
Yep.
I like the fact that everything is a little bit closer together. I like that it is smaller in the number of people, and I enjoy Gen Con, and I'm not deriding it, but it is very consumer focused, and it feels very cliquish to me. This, because it's a smaller, slower paced show, feels very, very open. Now, well, anyway, I don't want to get anybody in trouble, and I don't want to shit on anybody because, dude, I go to Gen Con as often as I can.
Right.
I have more fun hanging out here, even if it has better shopping.
Well, we like having you here as well. This is the chance to really sit down and talk with people at length. One of the great things about any of these things is having different conventions and different things to experience. Gen Con, certainly in the last 5 or 6 years, has turned into a retail frenzy. It is absolutely the place to launch a game. It is the place to get the exclusives. It's the place to meet the designers or the artists or the publishers themselves. But it doesn't allow you to take a breath and take it all in and sit down and play a game for 4 hours because there's always something else to do that's forcing you to get that schedule. Now, that is a for-profit company that is run by Gen Con, and they do what they do fantastically well. So what Origins doesn't pretend to do is the same thing. We don't want to do the retail frenzy. We don't want it wall-to-wall, people shoulder-to-shoulder fighting their way down the aisles. This is supposed to allow you to sit and game for half a day and not think you've missed something. You've actually enriched yourself by meeting different groups and being able to get access to the games library for a whole day before the convention starts.
Well, and this is complete editorial. This is my opinion. I'm not pinning anything on Andrew. I think the gaming here is better. I think the games are more diverse. I think that they're better produced, particularly as somebody who likes toy soldiers.
Right.
And the variety of miniature gaming and creativity that you see here is amazing. So I always tell people, dude, if you want to shop, Gen Con is it. If you want to game and meet gamers, and as a pseudo journalist, I know I said it incorrectly on purpose. As a pseudo journalist, I get opportunities like this with people who I would call a big deal in the industry that I'm not going to get at Gen Con.
It's so much tougher. I mean, Gen Con was back-to-back meetings for me. We as a company, we kind of meet with our fulfillment companies, we meet with our manufacturers. They come in from all around the world, and it is literally 6 out of the 8 hours in the exhibit hall, I'm in a meeting. It's very hard to stay and meet all the media people, the customers that we meet year after year. Our customers become our friends. We all know it. We all know that's true. Well, here is the chance to talk to them as friends and take the time with them as friends, and that really makes a difference. And I've been coming to Origins for a number of years, and I think it is personally way much of a more pleasant experience, a gaming experience, rather than, like you said, the retail experience of Gen Con.
And again, this is just my own personal brag. At Gen Con, I'm never going to walk across the street with Ken Hite and get 5 minutes of his time.
Right.
And today, it just happened it was just kismet. I was like, wait a minute. That's my favorite writer in all of RPGs.
That's amazing.
I think I'm just going to go say hi. Anyway, Andrew, if somebody is interested in checking out Chip Theory Games, where do they go?
Nice and easy, chiptheorygames.com. Have a look around. You can find us all the social media platforms. We're on, Facebook and Twitter. Our community is unreal. We are not in distribution, which is one of the interesting things. Wait,
hold on a second. Let me hit the fucking brakes.
Right.
So you are the COO of a game. You're the vice president of the Game Manufacturers Association, and you don't sell your game through distribution.
when you spend as much on production as we do, you don't have the margins for the extra middle person.
So then you need a full-time person to run the business and manage accounts.
Right, exactly. So the retail part of it is quite important for us without it being like one of the things that has to drive us forward. So we do direct-to-customer relations. It means that we've pretty much sold 99% of our games to the customer. We know who they are, we've spoken to them face-to-face, or they've bought on our Kickstarter or the Game Found, and it means that our community absolutely rocks.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much is that the future of the industry?
That's a great question. I wouldn't pigeonhole it to say that it's right for every person. I mean, a lot of games need to be in mass distribution because they do better in a retail store on a shelf or Target or Walmart. I love the fact that anybody can go into Target and buy a game for their family or a nephew or a grandson or, a niece who's just got into whatever. You need those in there to be able to get that entry-level stuff. For our games, which are heavier and more strategical, and we want them to be put on the table for years and years and years to come, we love the interaction directly with the customer, selling them a story and not quite, people call them lifestyle games. I think that's a bit of a strange analogy, but they are definitely a game that people, they want to be a part of for as long as they can. So they love interacting with us directly and getting the stuff from us directly. And that works for us, right?
Last question. If someone is interested in gaming professionally,
yes,
whether they are media, whether they are a game designer, a writer, they're starting a distribution company,
yep,
how does someone get involved with the Game Manufacturers Association?
Sure. So gamma.org, nice and easy. You can look it up. There are a whole bunch of resources there. There is something called the Expo in March every year, which is in Reno next year. I think it moves in a couple of years' time, but it's basically a way for different professionals to get together and network and talk about it is. But there is a whole bunch of educational resources that come out of that, and they are shared through the Gamma website. So if you are a prospective retailer or a publisher, you'll be able to get on there. You can see what is being done well in the industry, and there'll be plenty of people to help you out in terms of what not to do. Because I think that's one of the biggest things when you get into any industry. It's not making the same mistakes that everybody has made over the years before. If you can get a leg up and do some of the cool stuff and do what works for you, then you'll be on a far better footing than just being on your own and not having anything in front of you.
I can tell you for certain that Gamma made me a better retailer, and I would encourage other retailers for sure, from my experience, to join the organization. Andrew, thank you so much for your time. I don't want to monopolize anymore, because you seem like somebody who has been quote unquote on for quite some time, so I'm going to give you a break.
Thank you so much, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Then I popped over and spoke with Anne-Marie from Fireside Games. If you are unfamiliar, they are the people behind Castle Panic. Of course, I have to stop by Fireside Games. I already have everything that I want, but I adore them. And Anne-Marie and her husband are two people with whom I've spoken dozens of times over the years in my experience with Gamma as a retailer and now as a media personality. And so I just wanted to stop by and ask Anne-Marie, how are you guys doing at the show?
Oh, we're doing great. Yeah, people are in a buying mood, so it's really nice to be able to introduce them. So many games have come out over the last 5-6 years that some of these games are new to people. So it's been wonderful.
Just so the audience is aware, we have not sufficiently advanced Android technology to the point where you can pass the Turing test. What's up with the device?
Well, we decided that to save our voices, and especially with the masks on, we couldn't project enough and have a voice by the end of the show, so we decided to get voice amplifiers. You
guys are slick and professional. One of the things that I would say, and I would make the same comments about the Yellow booth, because they're also using the voice amplifiers, but you guys really have perfected's not the right word, but you guys do an excellent job of a presence at the show. And as someone who appreciates retail and design, I can see why it is that you guys are successful in always having traffic, not just because the games and their design, but your booth is fantastic. Who put that together?
That was my husband and myself. We do everything, so yeah, we did the booth design as well.
And you guys are a dynamic duo, if you will, and you're behind pretty much everything Fireside Games.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we do hire out some contractors now and then. We used to have employees that would handle various aspects of the business, but right now everything changes so much, and the needs of the business are so dynamic that we can't essentially invest in a static set of skill sets. So we really have to contract, a lot out, and make sure we, have the support we need where we need it.
You guys have been doing this for a long time, longer than I have. How long have you guys been doing Fireside Games professionally full-time?
Justin's been doing it professionally full-time since 2008, and then I came on board in, it was 2013 was my first full year.
My wife and I have been together for almost 30 years. I could not work with her. I love her. If she wants to edit something that I've written, absolutely great. But she can't be at work on time. She doesn't. How do you guys make it work?
It was a surprise to us. When we got married, it was because we liked each other. And every year and every kind of business challenge that comes up, we are super surprised that it turns out we work really well together. So yeah, I don't know the reason.
Well, forgive me for sounding gushy, but on many facets, you two are something to envy. But I have one last question.
Sure.
I am looking at over here.
Yeah.
In fact, another personality is taking some pictures of Castle Panic, the deluxe edition. If you were a knucklehead and missed out on the Kickstarter, how would you get access to getting a pre-order for this game?
Yeah, it's not too late. We're on CrowdOx, so if you wanted to go to CrowdOx, you can still pre-order the game. And we're not planning on closing it until like early to mid-November. As soon as we have the files ready to go to the printer, we'll close it down because that's when we need the order number. So we're going to keep it open a while.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I wish you guys the best at the show.
Thank you so much.
Next up, I had a quick chat with Tim from Thunderworks. They make a board game that I really, really dig called Role Player. And we talk about the future, so to speak, of that game. So I'm here with Tim from Thunderworks Games. Now, I know not everybody knows my entire collection of games, but I'm a big fan of Role Player. In fact, when I was a retailer, it caused a tremendous amount of consternation with myself and a coworker who did not like the game. However, we both agree that Cartographers, which is basically a roll and write without rolling, is one of the best of that ilk on the market. So Tim, how are you?
I'm doing great. Origins 2021. Glad to be back with everybody as much as we can. It's not quite back to normal, but it's sure great to meet with all the fans of Thunderworks Games and talk about our new titles coming out. So we're excited.
Well, let me ask first, Tim, for what is your involvement with Thunderworks?
So I'm the brand ambassador. So I kind of, talk to the content creators, meet with new people that are reviewing our games, and just get the word out on social media.
I noticed yesterday, speaking of new product coming out, there was a Role Player Adventures game that I kind of got to. What is the deal with that?
So Role Player Adventures is sort of the culmination of the Role Player universe. It is the magnum opus. If you were to take a novel about the world and to put it into a choose-your-own-adventure campaign-style game, that would be Role Player Adventures. There are 12 adventure books in the box. Each adventure book takes 2 to 3 hours. So each scenario with your party, you're going to go through, make choices. The choices that you make are going to direct the story in a different way depending on the choices. And that story will develop and unfold in the Role Player universe. So all of the characters in Role Player, the cartographer on the front of the box, the Kolbach prison and lockup, they're all in Role Player Adventures.
I have it on good authority that I could sit down with my group, play a game of Role Player, and then there's a mechanic to port those finished characters into adventures.
Absolutely. You can take the character that you've already become attached to in Role Player, because people always said, along the line, one of the criticisms of Role Player has always been, I create a character and that's it, right?
Well, that's the brilliance, I thought. That's the argument I have with everybody. That's the genius of the thing, is that you're gamifying the character creation. It's brilliant.
As long as you understand that, you know what the game is really all about. But people would sort of like, oh, there should be more to it. So we did do monsters and minions, which of course gives you an opportunity then to fight a big bad monster to get extra points at the end of the game.
forgive me for editorializing, it's really cool, but it's not my flavor. I like just
the character creation.
boom, done.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but we wanted to make sure we, reaching all audiences and what people wanted.
Right.
And then we added the Fiends and Familiars expansion, which adds a little bit more. Now you have a familiar that you can build character with and use that, and then you have the split dice. Then the question was, what's the next step? So you've created your character. Now, let's take that character and go on an adventure. So we'll take it into the campaign and we'll do stuff. We'll fight monsters, we'll fight the gnolls, we'll fight the goblins, we'll meet the guards in Kolbach Prison, the constructs. All of that is in Role Player Adventures.
I am curious, though, was expanding the IP of the Role Player universe always part of the plan? Or, and it's going to sound very douchey, but is it because the industry zeitgeist was to expanding and developing an IP as a company?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it really came from Keith Mateka, the original designer role player and the head of Thunderworks Games. It came from his dream, this world, right? When you create a theme, you can say, well, it could just be the theme for this game. But the role player was really more. He had in his mind a world, the universe of Ulos, and around that we built these characters and the things that happen in it. It's a world building in order to meet that dream that he had. That's where all these come from. So it's not really an IP per se, but it's the world that Keith created that are now coming out in these games like Role Player, Cartographers, Lockup, and so on. We have more coming. And it's not just going to be in Role Player Universe or Role Player Adventures. There's games that will be in the Role Player Universe that are totally separate games.
You've preempted my last question for you then. Is there anything else upcoming besides Role Player Adventures that we need to know about?
Nothing that I can tell you exactly about, but there's some, just be prepared for some great games coming that will be different than we've done before with Role Player or Cartographers, but will still be in that world.
Tim, thank you so much for your time. I hope you guys have a great show.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Then, based on the recommendation of a Fear the Boot listener, and I do not remember to whom I should give credit, I apologize, I stopped by Crithit Ceramics. They make ceramic dice. It was really interesting to see somebody bring a different material like that into dice manufacturing. So I had to take a look and ask them some questions. I stopped off at Crithit Ceramics. These guys do ceramic dice, right? But when you think ceramics, don't think fragile pottery. Think like some really, really dense, heavy, impactable ceramics that you can put... Industrial brake pad. So Lance is actually going to give us the breakdown. So Lance, what is the competitive edge for ceramic dice? Because there's a lot of dice competition out there.
There are, but as far as we know, Crithit is one of the only manufacturers of ceramic dice around. And what we like is it's kind of a happy medium between your really light wood dice, your really light plastics and resins, and then your high, heavy metal dice. So they got a nice feel and a sound to them.
The thing I like about a die is that, or these dice in particular, is they're not too heavy, but they impact the table, and it's visceral, but I need that.
It absolutely is. The ceramic dice are a tactile and auditory experience, so they got a great clack, and then you're rolling them when you let them go. You're exactly right. They hit the table, they make a sound, then you land your attack or you land your spell or whatever you're using them for.
At risk of sounding crass, the price tag on these dice, this is an indulgence. These are not an inexpensive endeavor.
Right. I would say they fall more in the mid to high range when you're talking about gemstone or some of the heavy, more rare metals. You're looking somewhere between 40 and 100 for a set of our ceramics, depending on the processes we have to go through. But they're all hand pressed, hand cleaned, hand numbered.
How is randomness?
They fall within standard deviations. We press mold them to get a true shape, but we've tested and we've done our R&D and had our trials and tribulations developing these to get them to be a durable and playable die for gamers.
If someone is not at the Origin show, or more importantly, they're hearing this because I'm usually about a week after,
Yep.
where would they find you on the interwebs?
So they can find us on social media, Crithit Ceramics. We're on Insta and Facebook. And then, of course, our website, crithitceramics.com.
How has the show been for you guys so far?
You know, it's a little slow. It's a weird year, but we're glad to be back in person and actually be able to have the show. So we'll see how the rest of the weekend goes. And, you know, we have high hopes.
Right on. Well, Lance, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for stopping by.
Then I had the absolute pleasure of speaking with Chris from Ninth Level Games and his associate, Yeet. I'm just going to let them roll right into it. I stopped by Ninth Level Games. Now, you heard me talking to Anne-Marie earlier in the episode, but Christopher is another guy who is a face that I have been acquainted with for many, many moons through GTSs and Origins, etc.
Yeah.
And he's wicked fucking entertaining. But more importantly, he's the genius behind maybe a Cobalt HO baby.
And I'm gonna hand it over to my friend Yeet here, who you can see Yeet on Ninth Level's YouTube channel or on the TikTok, where he likes to tell jokes. Hey everybody, it's Yeet!
Hi, Yeet.
Hey!
Yeet, can I ask you a question?
Yeah!
I have never eaten long pig, but it is my understanding that human being tastes very much like pork, and that's why they call us long pig.
No, long pigs are like short pigs. They're just longer.
So it's just like a regular pig.
Yeah, it's like a foot-long hot dog as opposed to like a bagel bite.
I have it on good authority from a story by Neil Gaiman that baby flesh is tender and succulent.
I'm not at liberty to discuss that because, let me just tell you, between you and me, babies are delicious, but, we're supposed to take them to the king. Oh, hell, King Tor!
Oh, hell, King Tor! Now, I hear that King T's kind of a dick.
No, he's the man!
He is a man?
No, he's a kobold, but he's the man!
He is the man.
2 ends!
When you said yeet, at first I thought you said skeet, and I was like, that is not right.
No, yeet! Yeet! As in to yeet!
I hear that a chicken is one of the most formidable on the battlefield.
If you are not prepared to get into a fight with a chicken, don't get into a fight with a chicken. They're masters of strategy. They have sharp talons.
Yeet, how long have you been with Christopher?
I fell through a portal and they won't let me go home.
Yeah.
The fat wizard keeps me chained to a desk. It's horrible.
Okay, well now, and I wish I could remember it but I am so drug-addled from all of my years of self-loathing and abuse. One time I was at Origins years ago and I stopped by your booth and I said I wanted to have a wizard, but I wanted to do like a show tunes wizard, like a fireball
that'd be great.
sort of thing. So, and then you just riffed and I don't remember anything that you said, so this is a totally uninteresting story, except for me to fanboy on you and say how much of an impact you have had on me as a gamer and a retailer over these years.
I don't remember show tunes wizards, but I'm in.
I want to crushed like Maroon.
Welcome to Origins. I'm a wizard. We actually have a new game called Business Wizards, which is a game about arcane spellcasters in their soul-crushing corporate jobs. That is currently available. It's currently available at Origins and at other conventions.
And this uses the polymorph system.
It does use the polymorph system, the same system that powers Rebel Scum, the Excellent Princess role-playing game, and Mazes, our old-school fantasy role-playing game.
Can you do me a solid, Christopher, and just break down the polymorph system for the audience if they're not familiar?
Yeah, the polymorph system is our award-winning. It won the IGDN Best Rules Award in 2020. It was also nominated for an ENnie for Best Rules. The polymorph system is a extremely modern way of looking at role-playing. It is very fast. Each player has one die that represents their character, so you're either a D4, a D6, a D8, or a D10. Each one of those has a different mechanical effect, because what you're trying to do is roll specific numbers that are on your character sheet. So in all of the polymorph games, if you're trying to do something that's about thinking or talking, you want to roll a 2 or a 3. If you ever roll a 1, if it's something that your character could do, like it's something that's related to your class or who you are, depending on the type of game, that's also a success. So in mazes, which is like the fantasy role-playing, if I'm the fighter and I'm attacking something, I roll a 1, it's always a success. But if I'm a wizard and I'm attacking something with a sword, it would fail. In the Excellence, which is about excellent princesses, if I'm the princess of Marshmallow and I need to bounce off something and I roll a 1, it would be like, oh, I'm the princess of Marshmallow, so that obviously works. So that's like, it's rolling your realm, it's called. In Rebel Scum is the game about punching. It's the anti-fascist space opera game. So it's a certain war in the stars, but you're literally rewarded for metaphorically or physically punching Nazis in the face. That gives you stars, and you can use those stars to do special things, which is another part of the polymorph system.
May I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
How are you always on? Right? So as someone who is charismatic and gregarious and probably is plagued by dark thoughts like I am, how do you always, dude, you can grab the switch. There's some days I can't. I just can't grab it.
We recently got back from a convention experience, and after a night of hard drinking, my good friend Pete, who's standing next to me here, you can just imagine Pete standing next to me at home, because this is on audio. Pete said to Pete, how is it that Chris is alive? And Pete was like, oh, well, this stuff just rolls off Chris's back. Chris is always on. It's just how it is.
Because you're the kind of dude who's got friends that you would call at 3 o'clock in the morning. You'd send him a text that would just say, hooker, dead, help.
No,
your buddies aren't helping you with that?
Oh, no, I might get that call.
Okay.
I'm never gonna make that call.
Really?
I might get that call.
Why are you not? No, you seem like a life of the party kind of guy. Like you might wake up.
I'm not killing any hookers. I mean, the real thing is I am an extreme extrovert. On the Myers-Briggs, like I am 10-10 on extrovert scale. Right. So when I get around people, I'm just completely energized. I want to see people. I want to hang out with people. So that's how I'm up. If I get bored, I just, I pretend to be a kobold for a while. I have a puppet.
Chris, thank you so much for your time. Can I talk to Yeet real quick before we go?
Hey, what's up?
Okay, Yeet, I'm recording, but I'm going to ask you a question on the record. You can pretend that it's off the record, so you respond however you want.
On the record.
What is your favorite convention to go to?
Oh, it's PAX Unplugged.
I've never been to PAX Unplugged. What's PAX like?
It's like all these other conventions, but it's in Philadelphia, the greatest city on earth. The food is so good.
I have heard that the cheese there is some sort of processed, faked, manufactured poison that I shouldn't ingest. Is that real?
Are you talking about Whiz?
Yeah.
No one actually in Philadelphia eats that. That's only for tourists.
Okay.
People in Philadelphia eat provolone.
Oh, well, all right then. That makes a hell of a lot more sense. Now, have you ever eaten provolone on a baby?
Oh, man, no. It's one of the 23 commandments of 4. Don't mix dairy and baby.
Well, when things get rabbinical, it is time for me to cash out. Yeet, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
While I was at the show, I was doing some editing work on my laptop, some editing practice with video, really. And when I left the area that I was working in outside the Starbucks in the convention center, I realized that I had misplaced my mouse, or I didn't bring it with me. So as I'm walking around the vendor hall, I see this artist named Heather, and she has a company called My Little Demon, and they do these hybrid My Little Pony demon monster creatures, and I ended up picking up a Cthulhu-ized pony mouse pad, but I got to chat with her for a minute, and she has quite a history in the industry. I'm sure you're all familiar with the brony phenomenon and My Little Pony and that artistic aesthetic. So I got drawn in by some really, really slick art from Heather Kreider, My Little Demon at mylittledemon.com. She's here selling, because it's she, her, they, them. Do you...
Either or. I'm fine with she. I'm fine with they.
Okay, so she's here selling her product. I coincidentally lost my mouse pad and needed to get a new one, so I had to get the My Little Pony Cthulhu-y creature whose name I cannot pronounce, so I'm not even going to try, but your work is absolutely beautiful.
Thank you very much. Pretty much all of the demons are done in traditional media. I do them in Prismacolor markers, colored pencils, and ink. I've just started working in acrylics. to do some more of my demons. I've actually got a game that's going to be coming out soon called My Little Demon: The Unglittering. It's going to be horrible in all the best ways, and all of the artwork that I'm doing for the game is all going to be in acrylics.
You have a wide variety of different material here that you can get. What's your best seller?
The plush, hands down. Everybody loves the plush.
And the plushes you have here, you've got a couple different demonic ponies or demons.
I do. These guys are actually part of my Series 3 plush, which I'm getting to the tail end of them. I originally had 5.
The tail end?
No pun intended, ironically enough. I started off with 5. I'm down to my last 2. Hopefully in December, I'm going to have my next batch of plush coming in, which are all the squiddies, which are all half demon pony, half octopus.
And I would be remiss if people didn't understand that you don't just do the demonic pony animals. In fact, there was an owl bear that I thought, oh, it's a biker because I'm sheltered from the Midwest. And then I realized, oh, it's an owl bear. Oh, I get it. But then you have these little velociraptors that are stylized like characters from some of my favorite Tim Burton films. And you've got a delightful couple coloring books as well.
Yes.
You've been doing this a long time because I recognize this aesthetic. How long have you been doing art on the con circuit?
I started officially at Origins back in 2000. Was my very, very first ones. This is my 21st Origins in a row. My Little Demon I have been doing since 2007. And I overlapped a little bit. I used to be a trading card illustrator and RPG illustrator. Did work for World of Darkness, Vampire: The Eternal Struggle, which is where I kind of get my love of horror. A vintage pony collector, which is where kind of those two met to form My Little Demon. The owlbear that you mentioned, these are actually some of the characters that are going to be in the game. Oh. So I have a couple of them done. The T-Rexes are just something I did for fun. I love to customize toys, and so that's just something I do for fun.
Are you doing the game yourself through My Little Demon, or are you publishing have you teamed up with someone else?
I have teamed up with the lovely folks at Pine Box Entertainment. Their main game is Doomtown. They just had a Kickstarter for that one. So they have all the playtesting done, all of the game mechanics figured out, so the game itself is ready to go. I just need to finish all of the artwork.
And again, if somebody's not here or able to see you at a show, I'm assuming they can find all of your kit at mylittledemon.com.
Yes, everything is there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Take care. Then I saw David Wheeler, whom I know through the hobby aspect of the game industry. I wanted to chat him up because I knew that he was doing something very unique, and that was franchising. Now, he's been in the industry a long time, had a chain of stores in Austin, Texas that he's now franchising out. They are opening a new franchise in Columbus, Ohio. They were at the show to promote the new location, but I got to pick David's brain a little bit. It was pretty cool. I'm here with David Wheeler, legendary retailer in the hobby industry. You know my mentor, Dave Wallace, and the amount of time that I've been in the hobby in the Midwest. Mr. Wheeler is basically the Dave Wallace of Tejas. He had a chain of stores in Austin, Texas, and he's now living the dream. He's franchising Dragon's Lair, and he's here at Origins to promote the new Dragon's Lair that's going to be opening here in Columbus, Ohio.
That's right. We're opening first quarter of 22.
If people, and some of my listeners are, because I do have retailers who listen to the show,
yes,
who are in the know, you have been a retailer in the hobby and game industry, or comics and games, for a very long time.
We just celebrated our 35th anniversary.
Wow, 35, geez, criminy. That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But now, I understand that it's not something that you do to the same degree that you used to, because you're now out of it.
Well, I franchise my stores. I don't own any of my stores, so we're looking for new franchisees. My stores and I support the new stores as they come in. But I do not own any stores currently.
Yeah. You want to buy Dave Wallace's fantasy shops? Dave and Kelly are looking to retire, and they told me that they would pay me a finder's fee for someone if they could actually sell. They've got 4 stores in St. Louis. They do very well.
You know, I would love to work with people who are new to the industry who want to buy the fantasy shop stores and franchises Dragon's Lairs. I think Dave and Kelly would do a great job mentoring anyone who bought their
No,
stores.
they're brilliant. And Dave and I
God,
mean,
yes.
we have a familial relationship that is equal parts love, hate, and frustration. So
That sounds like a family.
Yeah, no, I absolutely get it. So, in addition to everything else, something that I've noticed, and I mentioned it to a couple of other vendors, you guys have a great booth presence.
Thank you.
Some people at the show do it right in terms of attracting people, and you guys have a really, really eclectic, eclectic's fine. You have a very diverse mix of things to attract people. I'm going to assume that the Dragon's Lair stores are similar in their makeup.
We carry a wide variety of things, comic books, games, all sorts of stuff. We provide table space, and each franchisee has their own passions that they bring to it. So you see over here, you don't see over here, but you hear over here that Artemis is being played here, and it will be part of the game store experience because Phil, the new franchisee, loves Artemis as well as loving comic books and games and all the other things we provide. We are also very much about community. We try to make our stores as welcoming to all parts of our industry as possible.
Mr. Wheeler, or David, if I may.
You may.
If someone is interested in franchising or they're curious, how would they contact you?
Either email me at ceo@dlair.net or go to the www.dlair.net site and click on the franchise link. And there's a link there. There's an FAQ about what it costs to open a store and some averages of what stores have made in first year.
That is fantastic. Well, I wish you guys the best of luck. I wish Phil the best of luck with his new store.
Thank you.
When I'm not in work mode and I'm shopping mode, I'm going to come back and grab some of that Saga stuff because Saga is a game that I adore that I don't get to see at my FLGS. So another thank you.
And again, that's one of the things that Phil loves is Saga. So he is definitely bringing it into his store.
I love it. Well, David, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Take care. Now, as you may know, I love accoutrement in my gaming. God, it's so douchey. But I love trinkets and gadgets and things for gaming. So I had to talk to Ted from TNT Laserworks about the stuff that they do. And it inspired me to make some suggestions to them about stuff that I would like to see that turns out totally possible and affordable. Next, I stop off at TNT Laserworks, who I had seen their product at GTS back in 20 before the world shut down. But they're here at Origins this weekend doing their laser cut dials and various kit and things that you can use for tabletop gaming. So, Ted, first off, how's the show been?
So it's been really good. Everybody's been turning out, and there's been more people than I was kind of expecting. Like there's people, like what we're selling is for people who play face-to-face. And so people are buying the products even though some people are still playing online. So it's like he wasn't really sure how it was going to go, but it seems to be going pretty good.
And it's interesting too because you've got a lot of different options in terms of the availability of your acrylic laser cut products. Mm-hmm. But it seems that your most popular design are the dials that magnetically click into place.
Yep, so they don't use magnets.
Oh, okay.
They do have like an acrylic mechanism on the inside.
Oh,
so
okay.
They're pretty durable, but there's nothing in there that's going to wear out or break over time.
Gotcha. Everything was so clean and firm. I just assumed it was magnetic.
Nope, no magnets.
And it's all done laser cut, and you guys do all the assembly?
That's correct.
So it's all done here in the old U.S.?
Oh, yeah. That's all done in the U.S. And we even have an on-staff artist who does all of our designs for us, too.
Very cool. And I overheard you saying when you were giving the spiel to a consumer that a lot of the ideas that are on the table are things that people have inspired you to create based on conversations that you've had.
Yeah, exactly. So the very first dial was meant for doing tracking command points in Warhammer 40K. And so I made one of those. Everybody that was playing 40K at the time was very happy with it, 8th edition. And the X-Wing guys saw it at a convention and said, I need it smaller so I can have it follow my ships around. So I made them smaller for the X-Wing guys. And then other people saw them and said, well, I need more than 20 numbers. I need 100. So they came into double dials for the Magic the Gathering guys, and then of course it just goes from there, right?
I will say that I think, as a consumer, that not only is your stuff nice quality, I think the prices are very reasonable. The only thing that I regret is that I can't do more to promote your stuff here at the show. But what I can do is I can say that, one, I know you do custom work, is that correct?
Absolutely, yep.
All right, but you also have a vast catalog of things that you sell in person, and I assume also online.
Yes, of course, yep. So our website has a bunch of stuff, and to be completely honest, a lot of the stuff that we're selling here is just a really good example of what we could do custom, right?
Gotcha.
So this is like, you take a look at it and you're like, man, this is really cool, but I'd like my name on it, or I'd like, an extra dial on it, or I would like my dial to be blue instead of white, or whatever.
Right. Or I own a game store and I want to get 100 of these simple things.
Yeah.
Now, I recognize that logo, right?
Yep.
So other professional companies can reach out to you and say, hey, Ted, I would love to do a bunch of measuring sticks. I want to get 50 of them. I'm going to hand them out as a just thank you for participating thing at an event.
Absolutely. We've had companies come to us to get Kickstarter add-ons. So when their customers are buying their cool new card game, they can have this one-time offered awesome dial that goes along with it, that's themed with it, works with it. We've had conventions come to us and order stuff. We have gaming events come and order stuff from us, so it's a good stuff.
Is there a minimum order size for custom work?
No, there is not.
Can we get the information on where we find you,
Sure.
or where we find you away from the show?
Sure. It would be my website, which is on www.tntlaserworks.com.
Fantastic. And you work a pretty big circuit, I assume, that you guys do this full-time?
Yep. It's not full-time for me. I have a day job still, but my wife does this full-time. And yeah, this is about as far west as we've gone lately. But we hit like at PAX Unplugged, and we have Nova Open that we attend every year. Origins is now going to be part of the circuit, and we've got some smaller cons on the East Coast that we hit too.
Okay, so you're East Coast by...
For the most part. We're slowly getting a little farther. So.
Right on. Well, thank you so much for your time, man. I don't want to dominate any more of it because your booth is very crowded, so thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. Thank you.
One thing that struck me odd were the number of exhibitors who were showing off video games or electronics. Running concurrently with Origins was a show called G-Dex that was geared toward game design in the video game space. But there was a booth called Tiny Circuits, and I got a chance to talk to Ken about Tiny Circuits and these, they're tiny circuits. It speaks for itself. I'm here with Ken Burns from Tiny Circuits. As the general listener to the show, or if you're listening to me on Fear the Boot, you guys know how I feel about technology and that it's not my thing, and I'm conflicted about its place in gaming. But they've got some really cool Tiny Circuits electronics, some DIY stuff that attracted me. So I thought I'd pop over and I would ask Ken about G-Dex and about what Origins is doing with the technological avenue this time at the show. What is Tiny Circuits?
Well, Tiny Circuits, we're a company that makes tiny little circuit boards, and so the name kind of explains it. So our original system was basically like little electronic Legos that people can kind of put together, Arduino based, so let people kind of build their own projects, rockets or model trains or things for STEM education. So we sell to a lot of students and whatnot. As an offshoot of that, we came out with a little screen, and one of the first demos we put together was making a little arcade cabinet, and people liked it so much they kept saying, can I buy that? And we're like, well, no, it's a one-off prototype. Eventually it came to the point where like, okay, it's enough, we're a startup, we'll make it into a product, and it did really well for us. And since then we've done a few different little gaming things. Our niche is making it as small as possible, so we just came out with a small little, almost looks like a Game Boy we call Thumby that we just launched on Kickstarter this week. It's about just an inch. It really fits on your thumb. It's really
it's
super tiny.
remarkably small. Now, how functional is it?
It's fully functional, so you can play...
Stop it, you cannot.
You can, so here's like a little block game, kind of looks like Tetris.
I don't have my reading glasses.
I know.
I can't.
It's small. The screen is under half an inch in diagonal.
It's like if you cut my thumb off at the first knuckle, it's smaller than that.
It's obscenely tiny. It's ridiculous. You can play it. People always say it's not real, it's more of a novelty type thing.
Yeah.
It's also kind of a challenge. So we designed it to make it very easy to code your own games for it. So we have a whole Python interface that runs in a web browser. You can create your own games. And it is very constrained in terms of what you can do, but it's also, that makes it actually a little bit more approachable in terms of what games you can develop for it.
If I'm not mistaken, I see one on the table plugged into a computer.
It is. So it actually uses a new Raspberry Pi microcontroller, so it plugs into USB. The files just pop up on your computer, so it's all Python files, so you can go in and edit them. It also charges over the USB as well. But again, it's designed to be very, very easy to program.
The Origins Game Fair traditionally is one about analog gaming, which is my area of expertise as a nearly 50-year-old man and been playing games since I was a little kid. The technology has never been something that I really gravitate toward, but there are a lot of tech booths here at the show this weekend. So obviously, Gamma or Origins is trying to do something different to attract a different market. What persuaded you guys to set up here at the show?
So really, it's our first time ever at the show. We're not a traditional gaming company, but again, we came out with this new gaming product called Thumby, and we're like, wanting to show it off. And so some other people in the gaming development community and the video game development community said, hey, there's this event going on, GDEX, is running concurrently with Origins this year. So it's a game developers conference, and really convinced us that it made sense for us to come. They said it was a great event. Certainly knew of Origins from before. Got some many analog gamers in my family as well. They love board games that are here. So for promoting the event, just kind of wanted to see it and then show off our stuff. And it seemed to be, even though there are some differences in the different genres, a lot of people are interested in it.
What cosplay applications do you guys do? And if you do not do cosplay application, when are you going to get into that? Because screens like that can be programmed, that do stuff. I mean, you guys could do some boss-ass Predator stuff, little screens on chess. There's so much great opportunity here for cosplay.
Yeah, definitely. So, again, our standard product line is here that you can kind of do whatever you want with it. So we have all sorts of different little screens, especially for like model makers. People use that. People do all sorts of cosplay. So we have some like major movie types like out west that made like little Hypnotoad from Futurama that was in the live action Futurama show. So use some of the screens in the eyes to do the Hypnotoad type thing. And certainly a lot of wearables. So putting screens on people do like ties and different things with little flashy lights. My wife dressed as Leela one year with a little screen from Futurama. So.
Has the show been worthwhile for you guys to come to?
I think so, yeah. So we're based just 2 hours away from Columbus, where the show's at. So we brought down the whole team for the weekend. So it's just good to kind of actually be out in person again, talking with people, and getting a different perspective on our products. It's not our traditional market in terms of who we talk to, so it's kind of cool to see just different reactions of the public.
Where can people find the Tiny Circuits product? If they're not here at the show and they've got some 40K modeling aspirations or some cosplay aspirations, or maybe they like video games and they want to tinker with some small electronics, where do I get your product if I'm not here at the show?
We sell on our website, tinysircus.com. We sell a few different places too, so if you're an electronics person, we sell at DigiKey and Mauser, which are very big electronics distributors. We do some retail, not so much, but we sell like Micro Center, which is local to Columbus, and there's 25 Micro Center stores in Amazon, but primarily tinysircus.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Ken. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike. It's great talking with you.
Bookending part one, I spoke with Stefan from Yellow, who is also the president of the Game Manufacturers Association Board of Directors. We talk a little bit about Yellow, and we talk a little bit about Gamma. And then I had a rare Stefan sighting. If you're familiar with Doc and Yellow, if you're familiar with the Game Manufacturers Association, I think that you know who I'm talking about. I'm going to step over and see if we can ask Stefan some questions for our podcast, Why We Game.
Hello.
How are you, sir? It's nice to see you again. We have met in an acquaintance fashion many, many times through Gamma, etc. But you're here representing your company, Yellow.
Yes.
How has Origins been for you?
It is surprisingly bustling and buzzy. We are very excited. The sales are great. The demo table are not emptying. Even if it's a smaller square footage this year, actually we have just about 30 less exhibitors than previous year. seems everybody took a smaller booth actually. So that's what's happening. That's why the show look smaller.
You know, I will say the show looks smaller, and I was talking to newly appointed Vice President Andrew a few minutes ago, and I was lauding to him how much I prefer Origins over Gen Con for precisely these reasons. But I'm not going to put you in a position, because honestly, if I were a retailer who sold games, Gen Con's where I'm making my nuts. So I don't want to ask you about that stuff, but you guys have a lot of fantastic games, like King of Tokyo is just a personal favorite of mine, but I think a lot of listeners are going to know exactly who you are and what your games are because of your aesthetic, your presence, not just in your games, your art direction, but everything in your booth congeals. If I can, it solidifies it, it mashes up. How many people are on your marketing and graphic design team?
So all the development and all the design is handled by our French office in the northeast of France. And the French team is about 50 people now. And out of that, almost half of them are in the design and R&D. So we are an R&D driven company. We really give lots of latitude to our art director, designers, and game creator. And pretty much the rest of us are waiting on the ready for them when they have a new project. Say, here it is, go sell it. So it's a very unusual business model, but it's allow us to have that very strong brand identity.
In this industry, in a lot of companies, professionalism is lacking. Although I would say, as somebody who has been a GAMA member as media for a couple years and was a GAMA member for many years when I was in retail, the level of professionalism in the industry has advanced, and I would love to say that GAMA deserves some credit for that.
Oh, thank you. I'm sure you are aware of the new bylaw revision that we just implemented recently.
I am, Andrew. In fact, Andrew and I were talking about that as well. So
exactly.
when I cut this together, I'll make sure that our conversation is after mine and Andrew's.
Okay, this is something we are very excited about. For too long, the Game Manufacturer Association has been just about the manufacturer and accessorily the rest of the industry, and we thought it was not the right way to handle it. We really believe in our motto, a game on every table, a table for everyone, but it goes also in our business relationship. If we tell the retailer and the distributor that they matter, then they should have a place at the table. So I'm really excited about the new 6th division. It's showing a very wide representation of all the actors of the industry, and it's not even a month old, and already we are getting a very good energy from the board. All the division chairs are coming to us like, hey guys, I have that idea, I need to talk with the distributor because we want to do unified code for all the publisher, and then the retail chair is working on some of our programs. So there is a very exciting energy coming out, and it's the GAMA member should see some interesting result from all that brainstorming.
Well, as a media personality and GAMA member, I will say a couple of things. One, getting my press pass was very painless, which Gen Con did they accommodated me really, really well. There were several more steps, but Gen Con took great care of me. You guys did a wonderful job of making it easy for press to apply. But also, and this is nothing against Gen Con, but my press badge, it just didn't mean shit. It didn't matter, right? So this has been a wonderful experience because security here, I was like, hey guys, I'm press, and they let me in, everyone was cool, respectful. So Thursday afternoon, I got to see your completed setup booth when there were people who still hadn't even shown up. How do you guys plan your logistics? I was blown, you guys were ready to do business Thursday afternoon. It was amazing.
Obviously, we've been doing that for more than 10 years now in the USA for Yellow, and so we have a pretty well-oiled machine. When we don't have a worldwide pandemic on the world, we are running about 16 different shows around the country. So we have a very well-oiled process.
You guys are kind of a big deal though, right? Because you, not only do you go to shows and you do many shows during the course of the year, but you also have distribution through multiple distribution channels. You're in FLGSs all over the world.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we try.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed part 1 of the Origins special, and I hope that you'll tune in to part 2. which should be releasing now.
Oh man, no! It's one of the 23 commandments of 4. Don't mix dairy and baby.